Well, here we are. We're lighting the candle, a world that works. Every week we get together and we talk about whatever it is that we feel is appropriate in the moment. And the whole idea here is to bring empowerment to ourselves and to you, our listeners. And today we have four people on our panel. Uh, I discovered last week after explaining who's on my right and my left that it doesn't show up exactly the way that we see it afterwards. So I'll let you figure out who Ken Caputo is, and I'll let you figure out who Lisa Sheehan is. And our buddy Jan Jeremias is coming on right now. So we should have a real ball today. And again, I'm Bill Carell. We've been doing this now over 100 episodes. Thank you all for your kind listening. And there she is. That's our Jan Jeremias, hot and on the scene.
No, no, not hot today for sure.
So we've done our introductions, and we're hopping on and just going to dive right in today. And we've talked about a lot of things over the last almost coming up on 2 years, believe it or not. That's crazy. But the same thing uh, is possible in every single conversation, no matter what we choose to talk about. And I love this term that I came up with. I don't know if y'all like it or not, but conversational alchemy, where we're looking for and creating gold in our wordsmithing, and really kind of diving in and bringing as many different approaches and examples as we can to you, our listeners. So with that said, I'm going to jump in, and this is the thought that I have for today. I would like to talk about two things that I'm sure we can get handled in 15 or 20 minutes: the meaning of life and the secret to my success. I think both of those are there. There's some kind of like overlap and some corollaries there. But being a child of the 50s and 60s, it was very important for people, to find out, who they were and find out what their life was all about. And the interesting part of it is that people have made billions of dollars helping people through that journey, some with some success, some with not as much success. But how do you guys like the idea of those two topics in terms of a conversational cornucopia? The meaning of life and the secret to my success.
It's too
I
much
guess,
for an hour.
well,
I know it's not much for an hour.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy makes it really easy. Wasn't it just 42?
Yeah, 42 is the answer.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole notion of there being an answer to either one of those two questions is you know is there gold in them bar hills, or is it kind of like being asked to guess how many beans there are in a jar?
So it feels more like when we talk about mastery, like I'm not fond of, they use the title master in martial arts,
Yeah.
and it's an honorary thing, but the way I was always taught, mastery isn't something you achieve, it's a process you commit to, you
Yes.
know. So to me it just feels like it's less about the meaning of life and more about, recognizing the meaning in your life, which that's definitely a long conversation, very unique to each of us as individuals and who we are in this moment.
Completely agree. And when you talk about the meaning of life, um, not only is it personal, there is no answer out there waiting for you to find it. It is a generative process, in my experience. That I had a guy who once told me, he said, "You can think about why you're here, or you can go do it." He said, "There's no in between. This is definitely either this or this. You can think about why you're here, or you can go do it."
I'd make one addition to that. uh you know you can go be it.
There you
you
go.
know as a there's like, it's that whole thing about, human beings as opposed to human doings. And it's interesting, especially in the entrepreneur world, you spend a lot of time in activity, and not just resting in just the value of who you are and are becoming. You know,
Yeah.
you'll find the balance in there somewhere.
Yeah. And I don't know, how is it for you, Jan, when you think about, your journey through your lifetime? The neat part of all of us here is we've got a few trips around the sun between us, and some more than others. But the point is, Jan, was it ever a priority to you to really go and get answers to some very fundamental questions in your life?
Um, yeah, I think that you, you have two choices when for me, when I've gone through challenges, I always got to a place where I always look deeper. There had to, not in a kind of practical way almost, but obviously an internal, an internal reflection or an internal processing, which came from, all the experiences that you had and an understanding on a deeper level, because otherwise life happens and, you know, I don't want to say that there's no solution, but I think then almost the things that do happen seem meaningless. And so there was always this process of like trying to reflect on how that came to be for myself
Right.
so that, I could learn and grow and maybe not repeat the same mistakes or the same circumstances wouldn't keep happening over and over and over again. So I see you're smiling, Bill.
This would be a great time for me to ask you that 100 persons question. How old when you first noticed you were the problem?
Mm, that's right. It's like, I remember going on vacation once when I was going through some really challenging times and I got back and my mother said, "So how was it?" I said, "The issue was I went." Like I went on vacation, it wasn't like, and that's when you realize that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I didn't, I went, all my issues and all the stuff went with me, so
That's amazing. Yeah, it's another way to look at that is no matter what mirror you're looking in, you see the same thing.
hmm absolutely.
Lisa, how about you?
It's interesting because I was away this weekend, and one of my friends was having a difficult time, and it all stemmed from losing her son. So it was a profound loss, and it happened a while ago. And but all of us kind of shared a tragedy, a too early tragedy in our lives. So um, I was sharing with her what I had done, and trying to change my routine, and then to reflect on the fact that what I've learned through spiritual practices too is that the divine is experiencing life through you, so that you want to give it your best shot, kind of thing. You want to show your earthbound journey the best you can be. And nobody, even those that you lost, will want that anything other than that for you. So, why not move forward and give it your best earthbound journey, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's other books I shared with her and things like that, but it took me, I thought money was going to be the answer at the beginning, and so I read Conversations with Millionaires, and that led me to Jack Canfield, and that led me to The Secret, and then it was one step after the other. But if I hadn't suffered a huge loss, I don't know if I would have gotten there, if I would have asked that question, is that all there is? Are you just do you just be born and be dead? And I knew that wasn't the answer, so I
Yeah.
kept looking.
It's an interesting time to be alive, simply because in our lifetime people have had access to affluence in a way never before. I mean, and this is a worldwide thing. It's not just in the United States. The poorest of the poor in the poorest country they've got access to things that 50 and 75 years ago were absent. There was nobody there to help out ever. And in our country right now, if you stop and think about it, can you even imagine somebody in the like the 1920s, 85% of the population living beyond their means? How would they do that? There was no credit. You might be able to get a bag of flour, or a pound of rice or something like that till Thursday, but those folks couldn't buy homes. They couldn't buy automobiles on time. They couldn't borrow for college educations. They couldn't borrow for vacations. The concept of trading your future work value for money in the present is something that had to be designed by banks a little bit at a time, lending institutions, investors, that sort of thing. And so, is it possible that something like affluence could really be an obscuring of someone's journey in search for the meaning of life?
It would
I think
depend
it
on your
could.
relationship to it.
Yeah, it could obscure it.
Well, see, the thing is that all of that, everything we have now is like the air around it. It's like, we don't have any you know, relationship to it wasn't always like this. My dad bought his first car, in 1951, and he paid $63 for it. Can you even imagine? Cash. The first loan that he took was on the GI Bill when he got out of the service. And you know what that was for? The first home he ever bought and owned. Paid $13,500 for it. And he also had 3 kids at the time.
But I'll throw out a different concept is I don't know if it's necessarily money, when you are looking for or feeling distracted, because I actually think success works the same way. So I don't know that it's necessarily monetary depending on the world you grow up in.
Please say some more about that. Like
I
a little
think
more fleshing out on not being money, but
just whether it be the number of university degrees you have,
right.
or maybe not the money but the prestige of the job, or depending on your field, how much you've published, so all of a sudden success or being successful takes on a different meaning, not necessarily monetary, and it depends on whether, let's say, academics is really stressed in your upbringing, and then all of a sudden it might not be how much money you make. It might be like how many degrees you have.
And that almost gets to be a family community sort of thing, where people who are the first one in their family to ever graduate from high school, or the first one in their family to ever graduate from college, or the first one in their family to ever have one of their children go to college. All those kinds of really cool things have happened in great numbers over the last 50 to 75 years. I'm posing. And I'm wondering if it's easier to get from here to there without the struggle that it took. Like, for instance, the people who, like the Elon Musks of the world, they're not successful because everything worked out for them, or that they were the recipient of a couple of lucky paydays along the way. Seems to me that somewhere along the way there were choices that a man like Elon made, and I'm not asking you to give a value whether you think he's good or bad or anything, but you stop and think about, didn't graduate from college. Most of